structures in your mind to be rational.
Okay.
So my point is,
yeah.
if I didn't have that, could I be rational?
Okay. Okay, I'll give you an example.
No, but I want the answer. Can rationality come from non-rationality or something that has no even potential for rationality? Answer that question.
No,
Make it building block.
That question doesn't. It's not as simple as yes or no.
Yeah, give me an answer.
It's not. It's not as question. It's not as simple.
You don't know
as
why.
Yes. It's not as simple as yes or no. The answer is, if you are born into a religion that teaches you that God exists, God created the universe and everything. Okay. At some point, you begin to think like a scientist. You understand? When you begin to think like a scientist, you may have read books. You understand? The life that you had before, the teachings that you had before might become irrational. But when you begin to think and you have read,
you've answered my question.
You become irrational.
Maxwell, what you said is, if someone has rationality inside them, or the potentiality to be rational, then you can be rational.
Okay.
Now, let me break it down a bit more further. Maxwell, 1 minute.
Yes.
Can someone be rational if they have no potential for rationality?
Okay. Let me give you an example.
You need to answer the question.
No. If I believe
because we need to work on principles here. Maxwell, listen to me. It's not a test. I'm not trying to trick you.
I'm not tricking you, but the only question you're asking.
1 minute. Listen, Maxwell.
I'm not tricking you, but the question you're asking do not require a yes or no answer.
I agree, but I do it. If you don't answer yes or no, keep on breaking it down. Yeah?
You think you're getting somewhere, but you're not getting far enough.
Just relax for a few minutes.
Your question is irrational, sir.
You just need to shut up in a second.
No, it's irrational because you so put the parameters that you want him to say yes or no.
I don't.
Something that doesn't require yes or no answer. Your question is irrational.
The point is,
Maxwell,
the point is,
I love you so much. You don't know how much.
The point is, why the sarcasm?
What is the question?
No, the point is,
The question is, can you get rationality coming out of irrationality?
the point is, if today I have become scientist, I see the world differently. I have a different world.
I totally understand what
You
you're
understand? But I used to be a Christian with a different world view that I would consider irrational. It means that by believing that God created the universe, I was an irrational person.
Okay, you're missing the point. What I'm saying is, just because we're saying rationality cannot come from rationality, it doesn't mean that if someone has innate structures in the mind to be rational, it doesn't mean that they're going to be rational. It could mean that they're irrational all their life. All we're saying is
that circumstances have made them irrational.
What we're saying is something must have the potential or the ability to be rational in order to be so.
And that is why we disagree, because you are trying to convince me that
no. Forget God for 1 minute. Forget religion and atheism.
In order for me to have that innate ability to be rational, God must
No.
that's
Maxwell, forget. Let's start from the beginning. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we start with principles that we both could agree with. If we both agree with these principles, we'll come to a conclusion. And that conclusion might be we agree to disagree.
Yes.
Okay? So we don't know. We're up to that conclusion, right? We're tolerant, loving human beings, right? So are we in agreement? That in order for rationality to arise from something, that thing must at least contain rationality or have the potential for it?
Yes, I agree with you.
Beautiful. So we're starting with basic principles. So forget God for a minute. Forget atheism. Forget the spaghetti monster. We are just talking about basic principles. So we both agree. Maxwell and Hamza agree that in order for rationality to arise from something, that thing must have the potential for rationality or contain it at least. Boom. That's what we do in Hackney where I'm from. So we agree on those basic principles.
Yes, we do.
Now it follows what Imam was saying. So Maxwell, from that point of view, what Imam is saying is very coherently and eloquently. He's basically saying, under atheism, because there's many types of atheism, you believe there's no supernatural, the universe is based on physical processes, can be understood by physical processes, then how on earth can rationality arise? Because physical processes do not have potential for rationality, and they do not have rationality within them. So from your own, from your own basic principles, you have to at least agree and say atheism is an adversary of reason from that point of view, because the worldview of atheism, naturalism per se, to be specific, cannot accommodate rationality, because physical processes do not contain rationality and there's no potential. For example, last point, if I had a piece of wood and iron, And I basically manipulated iron. I blew on it, I burnt it, I punched it, I threw it away, I dipped it in curry, I did magic, I did voodoo, whatever you want. That iron will never turn to wood, right? So whatever I do with iron, it's not going to turn to wood. Likewise, if you have physical processes that have no potential for rationality, are not rational, no matter what you do with them, even if you wait 15 billion years, you won't get rationality. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, tell me why. Tell me why.
If the end result of that physical process is the human beings that we have today, what is to say that we do not have the innate ability to be rational?
Yeah, but where did that come from?
No, I'm asking you, given 4.5 million years ago,
Yes.
yeah, you understand?
Okay, good. So time. Okay, let me take time. So an irrational book plus an irrational book plus an irrational book will never become a rational book.
No.
If I did this for 15 billion years, bro, you will never get rationality.
No.
So for example, an irrational book plus another irrational book plus a billion irrational books, you will never have a rational book.
You are misunderstanding.
Oh, coincidence.
You are misunderstanding. Because you assume that if God created human beings,
Forget God for a minute. Are you talking to me now with basic principles?
It's impossible to make this argument without including the fact that you believe because human beings are the product of God.
No. Forget this for a moment. Okay. You're talking to me, a new person here. We're talking about basic principles. Maxwell, basic principles. You said to me, and it's a very intelligent view, right? And I put this in my book because it's a valid contention, which is, what if you have lots of time? What if we have not only one book, for example, but 14 billion books that were written every year, and you have 14 billion years? Maybe you'd have a rational book. But there's a problem with that understanding.
You are looking at the book as a complete product. We did not start as a complete product. You agree with that?
Agreed.
So in time, we became something else.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's a difference. Listen to this.
What's the difference?
The difference is the fundamental building blocks of the incomplete product does not have potential for rationality.
How do you know?
That's the question.
Okay, good. Let me say something. It's about time I took you on now. Let me say something.
Take you on.
Wait a minute. What you're trying to do, I can see the look in your eyes glossed over look. You're just going to bring focus and say, you know what? Wait a minute. Let me say something to you, right? I'm going to say to you, when it comes to how you're behaving, you just want to say that your view is going to be right. You're
No,
digging
I'm not
for
saying
something.
that.
You're digging for
Don't
something
assume
that's
about
right.
me. I'm having a nice conversation with
I can see
Mansur.
already.
You can help.
You've got a program.
You can see that unseen?
I can just
Proof
tell.
of God, you can see the future, guys. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that,
You've got
guys.
a focus where you've got a focus where you just want to try. You're trying to dig up so you can try
Hand on
and
heart.
undermine
If he
everything.
proves me wrong, I'll suspend this argument. I'll never use it again. That's it. Hand on heart. Look at me. If he shows this argument is wrong, I'm telling you, I'll dismiss it. I'll
It's on
take it out
camera,
of my
bro.
book as well.
It's on camera.
So Maxwell, so you were saying, this is means that we're having a very rational discussion. You start with basic principles. And I'm not raising my voice out of anger, just passion, noise, and I just love it, yeah? So basically what you're saying, Maxwell, right, is you're saying, how do you know physical processes are not rational? Now that's the interesting thing. Doesn't naturalism dictate that there is no intention or purpose behind physical things?
Which is
When
the
you say
point-
rationality,
which is the
you're
point-
saying an intended or purpose.
The point I was trying to make is how product of the physical process will be. In
Because,
this case,
you know
it
why?
is
Because
us.
we both agree, me and you've agreed, that if something doesn't have the potential for rationality,
How do you know
and
it doesn't have the
continue-
potential for
Okay, but
rationality?
the minute you argue that physical processes have potential for rationality, and they contain rationality, then that makes it worse for atheism. Because atheism dictates that there is mind
I never
indifference.
Said, I never said.
You know your book, he's saying exactly the same thing, bro.
Listen.
Pitless indifference.
No. Here's the point I'm trying to make. You started this argument, and I will mention it again. You started it with the point that because we are created by God.
No, I didn't say that.
No,
Forget him.
No, I couldn't.
We can carry on talking, bro.
Yeah,
Afterwards.
forget it. I wanted to, the reason I wanted to speak to you, Maxwell, is because I like you.
I like you too.
So I would just start with principles that have no religious connotations.
Well, you see,
And I didn't want you to filter things. I want us to come with a pure understanding of reality, right? So we both agreed with the basic point, which was if something doesn't contain rationality or even have the potential for it, rationality can't arise from
Here's
it.
the point.
You agree with that point, right?
No, I don't agree.
Now you don't agree.
No. How do you know it doesn't contain rationality?
Okay, good.
How do you know it doesn't have?
Can I address this?
Okay.
Can I address this? From what I understand,
Yes.
an electron doesn't have a mind. Do you believe an electron has a mind?
Okay.
Can an electron see?
It doesn't have a mind. Yeah.
Does it see?
It doesn't see.
Good. So what we discussed, we have to define what rationality is. Part of rationality, for example, in deductive logic, you have something that necessitates the truth, meaning the conclusion necessarily follows from its previous premises, right? Yes? So it sees, it has an insight, you have an insight into a conclusion, an insight. So you see into a conclusion. From all I know, electrons don't have eyes, they don't have minds. Is that correct? Yes. Well, there you go. That's why physical processes.
That doesn't make sense.
Why?
Because we are talking about the end product of that electron.
Yes.
You understand?
But you've already agreed.
No.
You've already agreed that if the beginning point has no potentiality for
I
rationality.
never agreed to that.
You did.
No,
It's on camera.
No, I never did.
Okay.
No, I never
You
did
said
agree
to me.
that.
You said to me.
Yes.
Remember when we shook hands and at least we agree on some fundamentals.
No,
Remember
that was
point?
not what we agreed on.
Okay. Let me repeat. Just to repeat.
Okay, go ahead.
Human beings, we forget. If something doesn't have the potential for rationality and doesn't contain rationality, would you agree that a rationality can't arise?
Here is the problem.
As a principle.
No, here is the problem.
He doesn't agree.
How do you know it doesn't have the potential for
Forget that.
rationality?
Your whole argument.
agree with that?
No, he
I am
doesn't
not
agree.
going to agree because how do you know it doesn't contain rationality?
What is it? What is it?
It's not my time.
No, because
No, listen to me.
No.
We're talking about a rational principle here. Forget applying it to an electron or to someone's godfather. Let's just talk about the basic thing, right?
I would not agree with you because in realm of what we're talking about, you understand? He was trying to convince me that.
So I told you 100 times, speak to me, not to him. Right?
I know,
You're
but-
speaking
but-
to me now.
but the
and
argument-
I really want to be proven wrong. That's why I'm talking to you. Because I want to develop my argument.
If you want to,
But you
So I
won't
want to be
listen to what
proven
he's
wrong.
saying.
I am.
No.
And I'm asking you a question because I don't want it to come across that you believe in magic. Because at the moment, the conclusion is, if rationality can come from something that doesn't contain rationality or even have the potential for it, what difference is there from hocus pocus? That's my point. And I don't think you're a magician.
Do you know the process?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, okay, a scientist conducts an experiment.
Absolutely.
Takes what? Maybe a couple of months, years.
Yeah, sure.
How long has the universe been in existence?
Oh, 14 billion years almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what is happening in that
But
time?
that's what I'm saying to you, my brother. What I'm saying is, time is irrelevant. Because I said,
How can time
if in
be
the beginning,
irrelevant?
because if in the beginning.
When is the beginning?
But what difference is there then? I have a hat,
No.
and
When
I
is-
say after
when
10
is
minutes
the
or
beginning?
10 years, I'm going to bring out from this magic hat the Empire State Building,
Yes,
right?
Yes, it is.
The point is, time is irrelevant.
I agree with this.
No, I want us to be
argument.
Maxwell.
You are not gonna win. I'm not gonna
No,
win.
it's about winning. I'm telling you it's
no.
about winning. I just sincerely want you to be more rational than
I
me.
am a better
I
rational
want you to
No.
adopt more rational arguments
No.
than me. And I'm sincerely saying, yeah, but
if I wasn't a very rational person, I would believe there's a God who is in charge of the universe.
Maxwell.
I would believe
Okay,
a man.
that's fine. Maxwell.
That's an
I
irrational
like you for like.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, I want to go back to the basic principles. If you didn't agree, then you just changed again. I didn't like that.
No.
Forget it, we haven't applied it to electron yet. Let's just speak general principles. If something doesn't have the potential, okay, and doesn't contain it, can that thing that we're
What are
talking
you
about,
talking about?
for example, rationality.
Okay.
But rationality is not the thing.
If something, anything,
What?
But anything.
What?
an electron, a bus, a car, a brain, anything.
Okay.
A brain
Anything.
doesn't have a capacity for being rational?
No, I'm not saying that. Of course it does.
Okay,
But
then-
I'm
then
trying to
what-
account for it. But this is the point.
But that's his point.
I
It depends
want,
what you're talking
yeah,
about.
but I want him to understand and go back to what he agreed on, which was if something doesn't contain rationality, right? and doesn't have the potential for rationality,
Depends what you're
can
talking
it be
about.
rational?
Depends what you're talking about.
Explain what I'm saying. What is the it? What is the it?
Anything.
No, it
You have
can't
to
be
be
just anything.
specific.
An electron, a brain, a human being.
Okay,
okay.
I agree in that respect, but that's
Good.
not
Excellent.
No, but
No,
that's
wait.
No, but
Let's
that's
take
not
the
what
brain.
we're talking about. Now, take the
I am talking
if
about,
it's
you
an
haven't let me finish
electron,
my argument. If we don't agree
The
on one
brain
point,
is
we'll
made of
agree on another
electrons.
point. Yeah?
The brain is made of electrons.
Absolutely,
Right.
accordingly.
And provided you give it enough time, it will get into a structure which actually produces rationality.
Okay, good. This is called emergent materialism, right?
All right.
I did a postgrad in philosophy, so sorry about the big words.
No, that's all right. You
Emergent materialism basically
don't
means...
apologize for being learned.
No, I'm not learning.
Yeah.
No, you are.
True knowledge is that which makes you realize you don't have any knowledge, right?
All right.
That's why I'm sincerely want to discuss with you. I know I come a bit passionate, but I'm telling you, I really want to sincerely discuss with you. So, okay, emergent materialism is basically that you get a physical process that can't account for the outcome, right? This is in consciousness studies.
Right.
In the science of consciousness or neuroscience or the philosophy of the mind, you have this idea of the hard problem of consciousness. We have innate subjectivity. They can't account for subjectivity. So what they're saying is emergent materialism is as follows. That you have a non-conscious physical process, but if you have them all together in such a complex way over time, it will bring about subjectivity, consciousness.
Yeah.
That not many people agree with that anymore. Let me tell you what the contentions are. The main contention is what I've just said. That if the building block of all of this complexity and time is fundamentally based on something that does not contain subjectivity and doesn't have the potential for subjectivity, then that approach to explain subjectivity fails. Likewise, if we apply it to rationality,
That's just somebody's opinion.
of course it is.
Yeah,
But we're
so-
rational. We're trying to assess which is most right.
But they could
I
be-
don't want to
they
leave
could-
it.
they
You know
could be
what?
wrong.
I have a hidden agenda. I don't want to leave this table you thinking that something could arise from something. That something could arise from something that didn't contain it in the first place or didn't have the potential for it. Because that, by all standards, is believing in magic. That's why.
But if you
Absolutely.
if
I don't want.
build a brain,
I'm a humanist
a human
here.
brain,
I don't want to go away
you build a-
saying this is a magician's table.
If you build a human brain,
Absolutely. I'm ignorant on a million things, bro. I'm an ignorant on a trillion, an infinite number of things.
Yeah.
I am the biggest ignoramus.
well.
I know, but what I'm trying to do, Maxwell, is
Nobody knows that.
yeah, but there's
you
one
can't
thing.
talk about things in general. You talk about human brain.
Yes.
Does the human brain have the capacity to become rational? The answer is
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Good.
Right.
But under
Okay,
my
so talk about human brain.
worldview, that makes sense. Okay, the human brain under my worldview
Yeah.
makes sense that it could be rational.
Right.
Because part of rationality is that you have an insight into a conclusion. You see beyond the physical, right? So under naturalism or atheism, where things are reduced to physical processes or electrons, then that can't be accounted for. That's why you have this big discussion in consciousness studies, in neuroscience, in the philosophy of the mind, that they say, well, how do you explain our ability to reason, even our ability to have a subjective experience of eating a potato that's been cooked on a Sunday, right? That's an inner subjectivity. So your argument is basically time and emergence, which is, it's not irrational. It's a valid point in the academia. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's a valid point in academia. But just because it's in academia doesn't mean it's right. So my problem with this, the main philosophical argument against emergent materialism, the fact that you have lots of complexity, lots of processes, and over time and complexity, you have something that doesn't belong to its basic component. The main problem with that is this: it's based on the rational principle that rationality or anything cannot come from something if it didn't contain it in the first place or it didn't have the potential for it. So the argument is here, and again, I use the argument of this table. If, hypothetically speaking, this book is irrational, if I add another book...
No, please, put books down. Let's talk about the human brain.
Okay,
Right?
the human brain is based upon physical processes, right?
Right.
If I take one physical process and that physical process does not have the potential for rationality, it's not rational, and I add another one which doesn't have the potential for rationality and is not rational, and I add another one, if I add them all together, then we cannot even claim rationally to say that it will produce rationality. For me to do so would be equivalent of saying, was it abracadabra, right? And then magic.
All right.
Do you see my point now?
Sorry.
Maxwell, I think the pen is dropped.
Sorry.